is the place to be for education about asexuality. So subscribe and hit that bell icon right now. Happy Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. Today we're going to be diving into the positives of being asexual. Yes, there are lots of positives. And in Asexual Perspectives book, this is the book that I interviewed 46 asexuals across the globe and around the asexual spectrum, or across the asexual spectrum and around the globe, however you want to say it, for them to divulge what they really think of love, life and sex from an asexual point of view. And one of the questions I asked the people in this book is, what are the positives about being asexual? So we're going to dive deep into this, and if you've got the book, please follow along at home. If not, you can get a copy of this book from Amazon. Go and get your copy. So Asexual Perspectives, 47 asexual stories. This book's called Love, Life and Sex, A Celebration of Asexual Diversity. So we're going to dive in. And first of all, we're going to go straight to Nikki's story. This is on page 88 if you've got the printed version at home. So, what are the positives about being asexual? I asked Nikki. These are hard to put into words, says Nikki, without sounding strange. I guess one positive is, since I'm not interested in these sexual sorts of relationships, I definitely have more time to put into my education, which to some might sound sad, but it is my passion and I love that I can dedicate myself to it as much as I can. I also think that we tend to look past the physical stuff when in relationships, be they platonic or otherwise. And I feel like you can develop very close relationships since you are focusing only on the person and their body doesn't come into it as much. And I totally agree with Nikki on this. I think that's something really beautiful about an asexual relationship and the way asexuals view other people in possible relationships. Is the fact we tend to focus on all the other things than the sexual, physical stuff, such as the genitalia. We're focused on the person's attributes, their personality, their intellect. We're focused on what hobbies and interests we have in common with them. We're focused on the person rather than what the person can physically do for us. And this is a really major benefit of being in a relationship with an asexual person, of having an asexual perspectives. And, if you are considering a relationship yourself and you feel deeply undervalued in past sexual relationships, hello in chat, then why not think about an asexual relationship, a relationship with an asexual person? Because we love on such a deep level. It's a deep emotional connection level. We look for things like creativity. We look for things like hobbies and interests. We look for a vibrancy and an energy in other aspects of our life that a sexual person doesn't tend to focus on as much, because they're very focused on the sexual attraction between them and someone else. Whereas we look in a relationship to see if we're compatible in what we like to do, in our hobbies and our interests and in our lifestyles, this type of thing. So I think it's really, really good. So that is Nikki's story. I'm going to move on in Asexual Perspectives book now. For those of you who just joined me, this is Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, which celebrates our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. It's a month I founded back in 2017 when I published Asexual Perspectives book. Hello to the people in chat. Nice to see you. Is it Charles and Maria? I can see your middle name, Maria, but I can't see your first name as well on my phone. But hello, everyone. So Victoria's story. This is an Asexual Perspectives book. You can get this on Amazon. Sometimes it seems aces are spared the drama that comes with sexual relationship. Aces, or ace, is the slang term or nickname, if you like, for asexual, in case you are new to asexuality. We get to lean back and observe the human mating ritual, which, let's be honest, is pretty hilarious. We also spend less time worrying about who we to sleep with and spend less time daydreaming about hot people, but instead we have to worry about heteronormativity, etc. So I'm an asexual person that experiences strong aesthetic attraction towards certain guys, and also romantic attraction, but not sexual attraction. And so I can think a guy looks hot in an asexual way. So I can think his face looks hot, as in I really want to kiss him, not I want to have sex with him. So some asexuals may use the term, oh, he's hot or she's hot, but that's describing more of their physical aesthetic appearance and the fact they're attractive in their characteristics, rather than, oh, I want to have sex with you, which obviously if a sexual person says that, it more likely means that they want to have sex. So this is why it's very different for asexuals. So D's story. What are the positives about being asexual? I never have to worry about satisfying a physical need. It helps weed out superficial romantic attraction, which can happen without sex, but usually doesn't last long without sex. I totally disagree with that, because I'm an asexual who's not only romantic, I'm a hyper-romantic asexual. So in this book, Asexual Perspectives, that's aromantic asexuals, those that lack romantic attraction as well as sexual attraction, and there's romantic asexuals as well. I'm a romantic asexual. So I disagree that romantic attraction doesn't usually last that long without sex. I think probably in a heteronormative, so in a relationship with a heterosexual, I think one of the main characteristics of a romantic relationship is probably sexual. I think a lot of heterosexuals, for example, they put romantic and sexual attraction all bundled in one together. And they kind of like think that, that it's the whole thing. Like romantic attraction is the same as sexual attraction. It's not. Now, if you haven't seen my video about 8 asexual attractions, please go and watch that. They are relevant to every sexuality, but I named them asexual attractions because they are attractions that you can have without having a sexual attraction present. But they also apply to other people. So a sexual person, a heterosexual, for example, can have a romantic attraction, but the difference is they would usually have it come with sexual attraction. So they think they're the same thing, but they're not. A sexual person could be aesthetically attracted to someone, but still not want sex with them, for example. But usually they would go hand in hand. For me, aesthetic and romantic attraction often go together, even though they are 2 different things. There's kids on YouTube. This video is not suitable for kids. I already put that. So there's no need to report this video because this isn't made for kids. And I already put that before I went live. There's an option to do that. So of course this live stream is not going out to children. That's what YouTube does to protect children. And it's very important when people are growing up anyway, for example, in schools, to have education about asexuality, which means a lack of sexual attraction, instead of teenagers, for example, thinking that they are something's wrong with them if they don't want sex. We're talking about teenagers here. Like this video is marked not suitable for kids, right? So no kids are seeing this video. I just want to make that clear. I'm very good at stuff like that. I don't have any reason for a kid to be watching this, right? But and it's perfectly fine just talking and reading people's personal stories out in this book, and it's something that people should know about in schools. Teenagers especially, because a lot of teenagers will feel that they're left out and there's something wrong with them if they don't have this type of education. Because there's some people at school right now, teenagers, that think, hey, their friends, for example, are talking about sex and stuff like that, and they are really not interested in it, and they're thinking there's something wrong with them when there's not. Asexuality is a real sexual orientation that's a genuine sexual orientation, and there's nothing wrong with that. And for people to grow up and be conditioned to believe that everyone's heterosexual, because most people are still conditioned to believe that, it's not good, right? It's not realistic and it's not true. There's loads of different types of sexualities, and everyone should be embracing their own sexuality, and there should be education in schools about asexuality, just like there is about heterosexuality and having babies and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's very important. Right. So I think this is really interesting. So Right, so D's story, what are the positives about being asexual? I never have to worry about satisfying a physical need. We've said that. It helps weed out superficial romantic attraction, which this person has said, which can happen without sex, but usually doesn't last that long without sex, which I disagree with as a romantic asexual. Similarly, I know someone I'm involved with isn't in it just for the sex, because we're not having sex. Sexual friends, which sometimes is creepy, but sometimes is kind of fun. I'd like to hope it makes me less threatening to other females in regard to their boyfriends, but I don't actually know if that is true, which is a very valid point. Like, if you are an asexual person who's friends with a sexual person, and you're a pure asexual who doesn't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever, you're not obviously going to be coming on to someone's boyfriend in a sexual way. So that's what's very good about having an asexual friend, is that you can be quite confident that their partner is not going to be cheating on you with them. Not in a sexual sense, but some people can actually still cheat emotionally with asexuals, which probably people don't know that. I'm just keeping my mouth watered because it's dry in the UK. It's very hot and sweaty in the UK. So it's 2 a.m. in the morning, gone 2 a.m. here. So yeah, that's why it's the clock's gone. it's like on my phone. It's like 2:30 something a.m. Right, Zoe's story. What are the positives about being asexual? Freedom, emotional and physical freedom, says Zoe. No more living a life of pretense. I'm reading from this book in case you want to know. Of trying to conform to someone else's standards and appear normal by having a partner and or children the way society demands that you do, which the lack of either will earn you a barrage of, why aren't you married? Why don't you have a boyfriend? When are you going to have kids? Have I got a blind date for you? You'll love him. No more fear of emotional extortion, coercion, of feeling that I have no choice but to have sex in order to keep a relationship. No more feeling as if I'm allowing my body to be abused and have no control over stopping it. I think this is a real thing for asexuals. Hello to Brazilians in the chat today. Appreciate you. So I think this is very important because for some asexuals who naturally do not want sex, if we have sex, it can make us feel like we're abusing ourselves or being betraying towards ourselves or abusing our own bodies. Because if we really don't want sex, yet we're trying to somehow do it in a relationship because that's what society seems as normal, but it's really not natural and normal for us, then it can seem like a form of betrayal to our own bodies, our own self, and even like an abuse. So when people go, oh, it's natural for everyone to want sex, it's natural for everyone to do sex, it's natural for everyone to feel that way. It's not. Some people in this world do not feel a natural need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse. I'm asexual and I don't get that need at all. I don't get the want, I don't get the urge. I love kissing in my case, I love romance, but I'm not interested in the other stuff. I have had sex in the past, years ago, in a serious, committed, long-term relationship with a heterosexual. But after that relationship ended in 2011, that was, I've been predominantly single since then, and I much prefer having a life without sex. I'm not interested in it. I only did it then really because, you know, that's what's expected of you in a relationship, in a normal relationship. And I didn't know any different back then. I didn't know that asexuality didn't exist. I knew that I wasn't that bothered about having sex, and I probably had it a lot less than some other people would. But do you know what I mean? There's no mention of asexuality anywhere. There was no mention of asexuality anywhere at that time. And really, it was only starting to come online in the year 2000 when asexuality.org was originally put out there on the web. That's like the biggest online forum for asexuals. And so, you know, there was a lot of people that didn't know about it, and I didn't know about it. I went to see a counsellor because the expectation of sex at the end of the night was making me feel like I was almost going to wet myself because I was just feeling so anxious and so, like, you know, disturbed in the sexual sense, because I don't like sexual energy being like targeted at me in that way, because I was like, oh my God, I just can't do that anymore. This is in 2013. There was a guy, for example, I dated, a very hot looking guy, if we're talking about hot, aesthetically hot looking guy. And he was very, very my aesthetic type, you know, someone I'm really attracted to, liked to kiss. But when it came to anything more than kissing, I didn't want to do more, but he wanted to have sex and I didn't. I did do some sexual stuff with him because I felt like I had to, and I was like forcing myself to do some stuff. This is like washing his body in the shower, if you want to know what it is. It's very personal, but I thought I'd just share that. And I was doing it to please him because I thought I can't give him sex or give him something else. But I now realise that I shouldn't have been doing that because it wasn't fair to me. Because that's not what I wanted to actually do. I was kind of forcing myself to do it. And now I don't do that. If a guy wants to date me, it has to be with the knowledge that I'm not going to be taking my clothes off in front of him. I'm not into doing like sex. And so, you know, I'm fine being single. So if he wants to date me or have a relationship with me, he has to know that sex is off the table. And yes, I don't personally believe that it's fine for him to go and have sex elsewhere. If he's going to have sex elsewhere, he shouldn't even be in a relationship with me. If a guy can't be monogamous to me, then that's fine. I'm not interested, right? I don't need to be with a guy. I've lived on my own for years. But, you know, I realised back then that I was like, you know, not doing what I wanted to do. And that guy cheated on me anyway within 3 weeks. You know what I mean? So there's not even a point to me even trying to push myself to do something that I don't even want to do. And it was an awful experience. And I went to this counsellor in 2014, the year after. And I said, I'm like really worried because I don't want sex, you know, this expectation of sex at the end of the night. But the heterosexual guy, it made me feel like I was just going to wet myself. And I love kissing and cuddling. And I don't know what to do because I feel like I'm going to be alone forever. And I'm really upset about it. So I thought this would be a great thing to say to a counsellor and she'd be able to give me some help. But she didn't. And it was like soul destroying, you know what I mean? You know, when you really, really want help and you think, I hope this person understands me, because like at that time, no one else did, because I wasn't on asexuality.org. I wasn't in any forums. I didn't have any asexual friends. I didn't know people in real life that were asexual, didn't run asexual groups. This was like, you know, before I realised asexuality was even a thing. And I literally felt like I was the only one in the entire world, planet and the universe that felt this way. I thought, you know, I seem to be the only one that doesn't want sex in a relationship. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be on my own forever. I'm going to be single forever. No one's interested in this type of relationship. I just felt really strange. Like, I'm just like, compared to everyone else, I just want something different. So the person I've gone to for help, this counsellor, she was a trained professional counsellor in the UK, but what she said to me was just awful, you know? You know, when you go to someone and you really want someone to help you and you kind of feel like, please just give me reassurance that I need. Please tell me some way I can get out of this, like, feeling, this mess I feel I'm in, this confusion. And she just didn't. And instead she said, you'll have to have sex in order to keep a good guy. And I was absolutely horrified. I mean, just think about that sentence. You'll have to have sex in order to keep a good guy. How can any guy be good for me if he's wanting me to do something that I'm not comfortable about doing and that I'm not happy with? A good person doesn't make you do something you don't want to do and can only be with you on the condition that you do that thing that you don't want to do and that you don't like. That's just really, really bad advice for any sexual orientation person. Anyone, you know what I mean? You shouldn't have to have sex with anyone in order to have something from them. That's like a conditional relationship. Do you know what I mean? It's just awful. And so I went out of that counselling session really upset and in tears. And I went home and Googled, I love kissing but not sex. And that's how I came across asexuality.org, which is the biggest online forum for asexuals. And I was like, oh my God, there's people like me. These people were in forums and they were saying that they wanted a romantic relationship without sex. And I was like, this is just incredible, right? This is just amazing. I never realized there's anyone in the entire world, planet, universe like me. And then when I realized it was like an awakening, an epiphany. And I'm like, no longer do I have to have sex and do sexual things I don't want to do in a relationship. It's possible to actually find someone in a relationship that wants the same things as me: romance, love, kissing without sex. And so that was the start of my asexual journey. That was back in March, April 2014. I've now been hosting this channel and doing vlogs and live streams on this channel, and launched this channel since 2015. Yeah, October 2015. So this will be the 10-year anniversary this October of this channel. So, and I spent 5 years of my life organizing in-person asexual meetups, which has been an amazing experience. So I think that's one of the beauties as well and benefits of being asexual. You get to meet other people like you, like-minded, who are just different. Personally, that's my personal opinion, and I love that. So, Carrie and Purdy's story in asexual perspectives. What are the positives about being asexual? For me personally, it's easier to be single and enjoy being alone. It seems like sexual people will just bounce from one relationship to another without ever really working on themselves. On the other hand, I spend too much time working on myself, laugh out loud. So this is Carrie and Purdy's story in Asexual Perspectives book, which is available on Amazon. And I have to say, I do understand how people bounce from one relationship to another, if asexual, especially because I have sexual needs. Instead of taking their time to heal, a lot of the time they will go from one relationship to another. But I have to say I was guilty of this myself years ago. And so it wasn't just because of needs I had, because in terms of sexual needs, I'm not asexual. I wasn't needing sex, but I do have a strong romantic side of me, whereas I really crave romance, really crave kissing. But years ago I was codependent, and so I couldn't be on my own. I couldn't fathom how to live on my own and have an independent life because of the way that, that my past was, which I'm not going to go into. But anyway, in 2012, after me and my long-term ex had split up in 2011, I then did a coaching course with the Coaching Academy. And in that coaching course, there was a trainer called Andrew Jenkins, and he taught us how to change our mind, our thoughts, etc., through neuro-linguistic programming, NLP for short. And I was able to reprogram my mind during that time to be happy being single. And now I've lived on my own for a number of years, and I've lived on my own, throughout all that time since the split, and before that, because I wasn't living with the person for a while before that. So, 2011 was the last time I actually had sex in a sexual relationship, but I wasn't interested in it really. I'd rather have done other things. But I'm happy that I'm sex free now, and I think that's a really positive thing. But I did go from one relationship to another. I was having relationships as a teenager. I had my first heterosexual relationship when I was just 6 years old. And when I was a teenager, I had a boyfriend when I was 15 years old, and then I would have one when I was 16, and I had one when I was 17, and I just kept having boyfriends, I couldn't be on my own. But I learned how to be on my own now, and I actually really enjoy being on my own, enjoy being single, but I still value a relationship as well. So at the moment, I'm still single. I haven't found the right guy for me. I have very niche needs, so it makes it harder for me, not just because I'm asexual, but I have other niche needs as well. Some probably to do with my asexuality, such as I don't want to have children, but I knew at 15 I didn't want to have kids way before I knew I was asexual. And I don't want to get married. I used to want to get married years ago. I used to be engaged years ago, but I don't want that anymore. I prefer to live separately in a relationship as well. And I don't want sex. So that's quite a lot. Plus I like younger foreign guys in their early to mid 20s. That's just what I resonate with the most. I'm not interested in my birth certificate age whatsoever. I couldn't care less about it. So I have really niche needs. I'm very different to Indian culture, and Indian guys are my top attraction, aesthetically, romantic, and in lots of other ways. But I'm very much the opposite of Indian culture in lots of ways. So that's kind of hard. So having niche needs and being asexual as well adds a kind of a few layers of difficulty in finding a partner. But the positives about being asexual is that you are living a life that's much more authentically your own if you're out about being asexual, like I am. I'm very out about being asexual, so I live a really authentic life now. I live my truth, and I'm free of societal norms and conditioning that, you know, kept me trapped for years thinking I was heterosexual when I wasn't. You know, that was a real awakening for me when I found out in 2014 I'm not actually heterosexual, I'm hetero-asexual. I mean, when you think your sexuality for years of your life, you grow up thinking that, you know, you have to go to school and college and, you know, and you believe you're heterosexual, and then all of a sudden you find out years later that you're not. It's like a real awakening, do you know what I mean, to yourself. But it makes me a lot more in tune with my body, with my needs, with what I really want in life. So I think that's a very positive thing. So, so I like this. This is a non-story in Asexual Perspectives, but I'm going to read this out. What are the positives about being asexual? We prove love can exist in all different forms, even in previously unfamiliar ways. We are a different breed that offer a unique presence and perspective to this thing we call life. And to be honest, it's kind of cool being able to say I belong to the 1%, like we're the redheads of the sexuality world. Now, in case you're new to asexuality and didn't know, asexuality or asexuals is a recorded 1% of the population. So there was a survey done a long time ago, and they by a guy called Bogart, and he does research into things. He's quite well known. And anyway, it was found from the survey that 1% of the population is asexual. But I think it's probably more than that. I think it's just a lot of people aren't out about being asexual, for example, like I am, because of fears of prejudice and, like I said, conditioning and things like that. So I think, you know, there's probably more people that are asexual than just 1% of the population. If you think 1% of the population, how many people that actually is, that's 1 in every 100 people you meet is likely to be asexual. That's why it's very important I speak up about asexuality, because you could have a friend who's asexual, a family member, a cousin, an aunt, an uncle, a sister, a brother. You could have a co-worker that's asexual, and you could help them recognize something they never knew about themselves, and it could really alleviate some of the struggles they've had in their life when they've been expected to live a certain way to societal norms and conditioning, and it doesn't really work for them, and they think they're broken when they're not. You know, this is your opportunity to step up and help these people, even if you're not asexual. You know, it's your opportunity to say, hey, did you know there's another sexuality that's not very well talked about or known about? It's called asexuality, and from what you've shared with me, it sounds like you might be asexual. Bring them onto this channel, let them ask me some questions, and let's see if we can help them. You know, this world's a better place for helping each other and understanding each other, you know. And it's important that heterosexuals, for example, understand asexuality exists. Because if you're on a dating site or a dating app and you don't realise that some of the people you're talking to might be asexual, you love sex and they don't, then you could be wasting each other's time. So it's important to understand asexuality, accept that some people are asexual, and then find the most compatible person for you. Right, so if you're asexual, that might mean that you're actually looking for someone else who's asexual and just going on asexual dating sites or apps, for example. So it works all ways. This is Jen Mullen's story. What are the positives about being asexual? I never have to worry about STDs, no pregnancy scares, no concern of being in a relationship and one of us cheating. I love this about being asexual because I wouldn't want to do that. Even if I did end up in a relationship, I wouldn't want it to be with someone that's so desperate for sex that they would cheat. Unfortunately, we do have no control if someone cheats on us. That's what I'd say. You can't never guarantee that someone's not going to cheat on you. Do you know what I mean? But if you're with an asexual person who doesn't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever, it's very unlikely that that person is going to be having sex behind your back and cheating, because they wouldn't be motivated to do that at all. So being with an asexual person gives you a lot more reassurance and peace of mind that that person's not likely to cheat, at least not in a physical sense. Some asexuals can cheat emotionally, or some sexuals can cheat emotionally with asexuals. For example, if a heterosexual's got an asexual friend, it's good because that asexual friend, if they don't want sex, is not going to physically have sex with them. But some heterosexuals who are not getting emotional connection enough in their primary relationship might turn to an asexual person to get those needs met, because the beauty about asexual love is we love for a deep emotional connection, usually, which means that we're very good at emotionally connecting with a person, which means we can fulfill a lot of emotional needs. Now, in a highly sexual relationship, there might not be much in a way of an emotional connection there. It might be more a physical urge, need, sexual, more animalistic, even some asexuals would say, you know. It might be fulfilling a physical need, but you might feel emotionally numb if you're in a relationship with a heterosexual. Even if you're a heterosexual yourself, you know, there's heterosexuals that are in relationships with other heterosexuals and they feel numb inside. And why is that? A lot of the time it's because emotional connection is missing. Emotional connection is missing. And without emotional connection, it can feel like you're just going through the motions of that person. Everything seems right physically and you're living day to day with that person, but there's not that deep emotional bond. There's not that feeling of connection when you're far apart. That's not that soulmanship or soulmateship, should I say, right? There's not that connection there. And that is what bonds you so much to someone. You're much less likely to cheat on someone if you value them as a friend and have that deep bond with them, that deep, deep soul bond with someone. And so some heterosexuals will turn to asexuals and will forge friendships with them, and some of those might emotionally cheat on their partner because they're going to the asexual for their emotional connection and intimacy instead of bringing up the hard conversation with their heterosexual partner that they're not getting their needs met in the emotional connection way. This is so important. It's what people miss a lot in heterosexual relationships. When things go wrong, they think, oh, if it's a lack of sex, you know, we haven't had sex for like 5 weeks or 5 months or whatever, that must be the problem. It's not. That's just like a band-aid. It's like a band-aid. It's like a band-aid covering up the actual problem. Like you're putting it down to sex when lack of sex is not the problem. There's a reason behind. If you're highly sexual, both of you, and you love sex, there's a reason behind why you're not having sex. A lot of the time it's because something else is missing, and it can be emotional connection. How many times have you known someone cheats and the start of the cheating is actually not the physicality necessarily, it's the fact they had emotional connection with that person. They might have met a co-worker and the co-worker's talking a lot and having deeper, meaningful conversations. They're having interactions and they're explaining their desires, their needs, their wants, their lifestyle, what they love. You're having deep, meaningful conversation. You're basically doing with someone else what you're not doing with your primary partner. That's what's missing in your primary relationship, which you should be focused on with your primary relationship, not cheating. But some sexuals, heterosexuals, they love the sex. They want their primary partner, because with an asexual, often many asexuals won't have sex, although some will. And so they go to the asexual person for their emotional connection and stimulation, but yet return to their partner. But they've still got a deep bond with the asexual, but they feel like they can't be in a relationship with an asexual because they need the sex, but yet they're not getting the emotional connection with their partner in a heterosexual relationship. So this is how an asexual and heterosexual triangle dynamic can end up manifesting. But if the heterosexual people of the world understand more about asexuality, how it works, and that we don't focus on genitalia, we don't focus on the sexual aspect of a relationship, we focus on other parts of the relationship, that's actually a good thing to think about in your heterosexual relationship. Like, what else can you think on? What else can you develop with your partner in a loving way, like an emotional connection, an intellectual connection, a soul connection, that are really deep down feelings, so that you don't have a void in your heterosexual relationship. You can actually, have a beautiful, deep, meaningful relationship. And then sex, if you're heterosexual, for example, is an extra thing you like to do together rather than the main focus. I think heterosexuals can learn things from asexuals and asexual relationships, even if you're not interested in being with an asexual yourself. There's still things you can learn by observing our types of relationships without sex, because that will highlight what's missing in your relationship. Even if you're enjoying sex, for example, or wanting sex and you feel you're compatible on that level, there's other things that's going to be missing that an asexual person might be able to highlight for you or might bring to your attention. If you think about your relationship with your heterosexual partner, if you're heterosexual watching this right now, because I know not everyone's asexual, and you think, okay, if we took sex off the table, what else do we have in this relationship? What connection, what thoughts, feelings, emotions, what else would we have? And would it just be a case of I'm watching TV right now, I'm having a meal with this person, like practical things, or would it be deep emotional connection, mental and emotional intimacy, which is what you need to aim for? So people kind of get it wrong in heterosexual relationships. Even they kind of put the physical fireworks sexual attraction first without building the other attractions and connections with their person. And if they do that, then they might, like I say, feel very numb deep down inside. So make sure you're building the other types of attractions, the aesthetic, the romantic, the intellectual connection, the sensual connection even, which means you can touch a person. It doesn't have to be sexual. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important for any relationship to have multiple aspects and facets. If you think about an asexual relationship, the ones of us who are not having sex are not interested in that, we're still focusing on all the other elements. But the thing is with heterosexuals, a lot of time, they don't focus on the other elements enough because they're just so in this kind of chemical reaction going off in their bodies. So like, oh, I'm really sexually attracted to this person. But yeah, it masks a very deep, real problem where they're not getting their other needs met. So please bear that in mind, because we all want to live in lovely, thriving, happy, healthy, harmonious relationships, whatever sexuality we are, right? And so it's very, very important. So Jo says, in her response to me asking what the positives about being asexual, I guess I don't have to worry about disease or heartbreak if a partner cheats. Also, I believe that previous sexual energy can be better channeled into greater strengths. Now, some heterosexuals, they do something called like NoFap, and they basically decide to abstain from sex. Sexuals can decide to conserve their sexual energy and abstain from sex. Now, this is not the same as asexuality. So a lot of people get asexuality mixed up with abstaining. They're like, oh, I get you, you're religious, or, you know, you're one of those nun people, or these type of strange, inappropriate comments, right? Asexuality is not about abstaining. The person who has abstaining is restricting and stopping themselves from having sex for whatever reason, right? An asexual person isn't stopping themselves having sex and not suppressing and repressing an urge to have sex, because that urge is not there in the first place. If, for example, they're a pure asexual, don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. Right? I don't get the need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse. So I'm not repressing or suppressing or holding myself back or stopping myself doing something that I don't get a need for or urge or want in the first place. I don't have that need, urge, or want. So I'm not stopping myself doing something. I just don't want to do it because I'm not interested in it. I hope that makes sense. But if you've got any questions about that, please put them in the comments. Right. So Isadora's story, Asexual Perspectives. Don't forget, get your copy of this book on Amazon or any good bookshop, because it's insightful and delightful. So what are the positives about being asexual? Right, Isadora says, I get to avoid all the fuss and bother people go through with sex. Instead of dealing with wanting a partner and dating and all that, I get to just shrug, and go do something else. I often see the hoops people jump through for sex, and I feel relieved that I'm not like that. And I do actually hear sometimes there's some women, for example, heterosexual women, they use their sexuality to kind of like, I don't know if control and manipulate's the right word to use, but guys, I have heard of women that can use their sexuality, you know, for example, heterosexuality, in a way that is kind of alluring to men, to lure them in to that kind of relationship. So and I do think a lot of, you know, women who are very like proficient in doing this type of thing, they will literally get a lot of things out of a guy in order for the guy to have sex with her. They will demand quite a lot. With asexuality, asexuals that are not interested in sex, you don't have to go through those hoops. You know, we can just love you for who you are. We can just be with you for who you are. You don't have to like spend loads of money on us in order for us to give you sex, because we ain't giving you sex unless you're an asexual person who is fine about having sex positive, which some asexuals are. People don't understand. They're like, oh, every asexual person doesn't want sex. There are some asexuals that do have sex. They tend to be on the more grey end of the asexual spectrum, though. So there's a spectrum of asexuality. Pure asexual, which is someone like me who doesn't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. And there are grey asexuals, and some of those will have sex because they might experience sexual attraction, but only under limited, rare or specific circumstances, or they experience it but not enough to want to act on it. Right? Having said this, I've had sex in the past because I thought I had to as part of a relationship. Do you know what I mean? So, but I've got grey areas, like, for example, the way I kiss is sexual behaviour, but I still don't experience any sexual attraction. So, I say people are on the more grey end of the asexual spectrum. I'm a pure asexual in the sense I don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. But I have kind of unusual traits for a pure asexual, shall we say. Right, okay, so this is actually my interview. So in this book, I interviewed 46 asexuals across the globe and around the asexual spectrum, or around the globe and across the asexual spectrum, whichever way you prefer to say it. And in this book, there's obviously 47 asexuals. So the other person is actually me. So in the back of the book, you get to interview me and ask me all the same questions I asked all these other asexuals about love, life, and sex from an asexual point of view. So I have a lot of positives. So I'm the person in this book that seems to have written the most, or had written about them, the most positives about being asexual. So I'm going to read these out because I think they're good, right? So what are the positives about being asexual? So I said everything apart from the difficulty in finding a suitable life partner, because that for me is really the only difficulty I experience, I would say, because it's very hard to find someone, especially because I love kissing so much and I love romance, but I don't want sex. And like I was saying earlier, often with heterosexuals, they kind of conflate sexual attraction with romantic attraction. They think it's a whole, they think romantic attraction is the same as sexual attraction, which it's not. They're two separate things, but most heterosexuals put them together. And so for me, who's someone who's really passionate in kissing, really romantic, it's very difficult to find someone for a suitable relationship, because it's like I'm not sexual enough for heterosexuals, and often I can be too sexual in behavior with the way I like to kiss for many asexual guys. So I kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place, if you pardon the expression. It wasn't supposed to be a sexual pun, but if you're heterosexual, maybe you like that pun. It was an intentional pun though. Right, so I think everything's great about asexuality apart from difficulty in finding a suitable life partner. But I also said in Asexual Perspectives book, available on Amazon, I don't ever have to have sex again in my life. Hooray. So I'm really happy about that, right? I really love it. I had a interview with someone who's a sex therapist, and she interviewed me about asexuality. And the interview's somewhere on this channel, actually. You can go to my channel and search my own videos for different types of videos. So you can, Happy Life Without Sex, I think it's called. And anyway, she interviewed me, and I was like going, yay, I haven't had sex for X amount of years. And she was like, most people would be really upset or I'm not happy about that, but you're cheering. I'm like, yeah, because I'm really happy I don't have to have that anymore, because I never wanted it in the first place. When I said I never wanted it, the last long-term relationship I had, it was consensual, but I would rather have not have bothered. I'd rather have been doing other things, like listening to my music in my headphones. Right, so I don't ever have to have sex again in my life. Hooray. It was my first one. Then no pain through intercourse, no chance of ever getting pregnant, no chance of STIs or STDs, sexually transmitted infections or sexually transmitted diseases. As I refuse to date heterosexuals, so I have dated heterosexuals since I released this book in 2017. At that point, I was never going to date any heterosexuals ever again. So as I refuse to date heterosexuals, I can date again without feeling anxious that the ace guy is going to want sex with me at some point, and I can focus more on getting to know if he would be a good match for me, rather than the sexual tension getting in the way and my hyper-romanticism and high arousal levels being mistaken for heterosexual attraction. Yeah, because I have high levels of arousal but zero sexual attraction, which is kind of weird, huh? I can find love without sex is a positive about being asexual. I can make more friends and I have a lot more friends, because I now know that many guys are only suitable to be my friend and not a potential sexual partner. Also, I have made a lot of wonderful asexual friends since helping asexuals online, some of whom I see in person would never have met or thought about talking to had I not found out I am asexual. I have to say that I met my best asexual friend through a dating site, an asexual dating site. We're not suitable for an actual relationship, but that's how I actually met him. So if it wasn't for me being asexual, and he got a copy of my book, if it wasn't for me being asexual, then going on that asexual dating site, I would never have met him. Right, so I can meet others who are asexual and understand me both online and through meeting up with them offline, either one-to-one or through the asexual meetups that I organise locally. I haven't done that for a while. I did that for 5 years. Actually, it's probably a bit longer than 5 years, but it was at least 5 years. And because I started doing that in January 2015, and I think 2022 was the last time, or 2021 might have been the last time I held a in-person meetup. So yeah, I have a deeper understanding of myself and even more self-love now. I think that's correct, because I really do. Like, when you have asexuality realization in your life, where you have an asexuality realization in your life, I should say, then you kind of get to understand yourself more. You're going on a journey of exploration of how you are presenting yourself in the world as an asexual person. Because if you're conditioned to believe you're heterosexual, which I was for years, it's nothing about my parents. They wouldn't have known that asexuality existed, so it's not their fault. But I was conditioned to believe I was heterosexual. I thought I was heterosexual for years. And when you are given a sexuality that doesn't actually belong to you, because you're not actually that sexuality, you're living a certain way and you're not understanding why you are a certain way. Like, things don't add up, or things are not making as full sense as they could do. You kind of have a bit of surrealism going on. You have things going on, like, I used to get upset after sex. I didn't realize why, but now I know it's because I'm asexual, for example. Like, the actual guy who was doing that with me was fine. He was my long-term ex, and when I say he's fine, he wasn't good to me in other ways, but sexually he was. But I wasn't crying about the sex as a thing, if you know what I mean. I was crying because, like, really, it's not my thing, if you get what I mean. Because I didn't feel that way. I left me feeling raw, rather than a heterosexual would probably love it and think it would feel great. Sometimes I felt raw. And I know why, because it wasn't who I really was. I was doing something that I was conditioned to believe was the right thing for me to do, to be in a relationship. And it wasn't who I was. So I think when you understand and discover you're asexual, it can just open up a whole new world to yourself. It's like you get to know yourself all over again and understand yourself on such a deeper level. You get to understand your attractions. You get to understand how you interact with other people and how you either are attracted to them or just think about them. You get to understand how you feel in your body more, what you think, how you experience attraction for yourself, and how others might perceive you as being attracted to them. It opens up a whole new world when you discover your true sexuality, right? I mean, this is true, I guess, for probably any person who discovers they're different in their sexuality to the sexuality they were given at birth, right? Which wasn't really their sexuality, it's just they didn't know any different. And when you understand yourself on such a deeper level, like I understand myself now, I'm a lot happier. I feel much more in tune with who I am. I understand myself better. I feel very good in the ownership of my sexuality, actually, because I'm an asexual that does have kind of grey areas with the way I behave sometimes, with the passionate kissing. Most asexuals are not into much kissing. And so I had to understand that about myself. I had to understand, like, why are you so passionate in kissing when other asexuals aren't? Like, but I kind of own my own energy. I own my own sexuality. I'm not afraid to be passionately kissing a guy, for example, even though I'm asexual, because I know that's not sexual attraction. That for me is aesthetic attraction, romantic attraction, and I'm being attracted to him romantically and aesthetically. He's probably being attracted to me sexually if he's a heterosexual guy. And I understand that now because I understand all different types of attractions. Whereas when I thought I was a heterosexual, I just clumped it all together. Like sexual attraction, I thought that was romantic, aesthetic, and all the attraction I was experiencing. I just lumped it with sexual attraction. I didn't know any different back then. And I expect that's what most heterosexuals still do to this day because they don't know any different. They think it's all part of the same thing. Whereas really all these attractions are all different. And how you react to different people in the world, your friends, work co-workers, people you come across, it's based on like how you chemically react to them in different ways and how you experience that attraction with them. So you might have someone who you're actually very intellectually attracted to, but maybe you're not sexually attracted to them at all, but you find yourself drawn into talking to them more and more about certain topics. And so you might be in, for example, you might not even be asexual at the moment. You might be a person that's watching this channel, you're not asexual and you're in a sexual relationship, but for some reason you have a co-worker and you don't know what it is, but you keep being drawn to having conversations with them, you know, so you're attracted to their intellect, for example, you know, and maybe you don't even see this as an attraction, but maybe if you dive into it, you'd realize that you probably get attracted to more people in different ways than you first thought. Because there's so many different types of attractions available out there, you know what I mean? So anyway, I have a much deeper understanding of myself and even more self-love now by knowing and understanding I'm asexual. So this for me is one of the real positives about being asexual, that finally I have a name to what I actually am in my sexual orientation. It makes sense that when I was 15 years old, for example, I wasn't thinking about sex like other people were at school. I was thinking about just kissing and cuddling with a guy and holding his hand and just like walking hand in hand down the street. That's what I used to think about. You know, when I used to really be fancying, attracted to a guy, I was like thinking, oh, you know, I just want to see him. I just want to kiss him. I just want to hold his hand. I was never thinking about sex. I didn't think about that. Even when I came to having sex, it wasn't me who instigated that years ago. It was a boyfriend, you know what I mean? And I'm not interested in that. I've never been thinking I want sex with anyone. Do you know what I mean? Like even the consensual sex I've had, I never went thinking, oh, I really want to have sex with you. That's not what happened. It's kind of like I was expected to have it in a heterosexual relationship. The guy liked it. I was okay with that at that time. I'm sex repulsed for me personally now. And so we did that because, you know, I got my kissing, which I loved, and holding hand and romance, and he got his sex. Do you know what I mean? Like, luckily, my last long-term ex was romantic, as well as like sex stuff. So that was good for me, but he wasn't good to me in other ways. Sexually, he was really good. It's very interesting that my last heterosexual long-term relationship, he was good at sex, even though I wasn't bothered about it, and he was good in those times, but he was actually not a good guy in other ways. He was quite abusive. Well, he's very abusive to me outside of those sexual times, but those sexual times he was really nice to me, which I think is why I was okay with those times and liked that time with him, because he was really nice to me, whereas other times he wasn't. So it wasn't really the sex I was interested in, it was like that time with him, because he was very kind and caring in those moments. Like a completely different person. It's very weird, but I'm glad I had a good experience. I'm glad it wasn't the other way around. Do you know what I mean? And him being bad in that way, because that wouldn't have been good for my health. Do you know what I mean? But luckily he was, well, I don't say luckily because he shouldn't have been bad in any ways, but I'm glad he wasn't bad sexually. I'm glad he was very attentive and kind in that way. Anyway, so going back to the positives about being asexual, I'm reading from Asexual Perspectives book, if you just joined me. This is my own personal story in this book. So I am more fearless, which is really interesting because I have to talk about intimate personal details online in order to help other asexuals, like I'm doing now with this live stream. I've been very personal during this live stream, and I know a lot of people wouldn't have the courage to do that, but I'm here to help asexuals. I'm here to help heterosexuals understand asexuality better, and I'm here to help everyone understand attraction, sexuality, relationships and connections and different types of attractions. That helps everyone, you know. We're all here to help everyone. So although this channel is aimed predominantly at asexuals, there's a lot of people that watch this channel who aren't asexual. Some people know asexuals and they've got an asexual partner, for example, and they come to me for help and advice. But while you're here, I'm really happy you've come and you're listening to this. Thank you so much. I have to say lots of love to you. Right, so another thing is I know my body better and my physical needs and limits in a relationship more now, and what I do and don't like. So when I first wrote this book in 2017, I was like, I'm never adamant. I'm like, not interested in dating a heterosexual guy again, not interested in that. But since I wrote this book, I have dated some heterosexual guys, and I have kissed some heterosexual guys because I understand my boundaries now, my physical needs. I'm a lot more better being around sexual guys because I put strict boundaries in place with them. Like, you're not allowed to touch here, you can't touch there, you can't do this, you can't do that. If you want more, I'm not interested. Bye. Do you know what I mean? I'm a lot better now because I have ways of protecting myself from the guy's sexual energy. Obviously, if there's a guy who's way too sexual for me, then it's just no good. But I usually attract the highly heterosexual guys, you know, the highly sexual heterosexual guys, I should say. The last guy I was in a short-term relationship with, I didn't mean it to be short-term, but he just wasn't suitable in his values for me. He wasn't asexual, but we didn't have sex. He was heterosexual. And yeah, the kissing was really good, but I felt like he was more and more towards the end. He was more wanting to do, not sex. He was fine about not having sex, but probably, well, he was... How can I put it? I mean, heterosexuals are really like this, aren't they? A lot of them, if they like sex, they, even if they're not having sex, they kind of like a bit pushy in their sexual energy. I don't know how to describe it. He didn't push me anything into doing, you know, he didn't force me or push me to do stuff, but he was like, you know, wanting to, his hands were like wanting to go in more places, and I was just like, this is just boring to me, you know what I mean? It's not interesting, and it's a bit pressurizing because it's like you have to keep telling the person, like, don't go further, don't go further. I'm okay with that, but don't do any more, you know, don't go there, no, move your hand, don't want it there. And it gets a bit like repetitive, and it gets a bit of a stressful situation. It's more like work. I don't want to be doing that type of work in a relationship. I want to be doing personal professional development and growing our relationship. They're not having to tell a guy to, like, don't do that, don't go too far, stay there, don't do any more, that's enough. Do you know what I mean? It kind of makes a relationship a lot harder work. And, you know, it's, relationships are hard work as they are without having all that extra stuff, you know? And so, yeah, it's kind of like, but there was, you know, like, I told him I don't want to see him naked. So he was, in the end, he got that message. I said, I'm not interested in seeing you naked below the waist. I'm not interested in that. I don't mind your top off, but I'm not interested in that. And he's like, I was like literally looking the other way because he's heterosexual. So he walks around like that sometimes when I was with him, but in private. But I was like, I'm just like looking the other way. Loads of women would be gawking at that type of thing. And I'm like, I really not interested. In the end, he understood I was uncomfortable. He's like, well, if you don't want to see that, I'll make sure I've got underwear on all the time. I'm like, you know, whatever makes you feel comfortable, but I don't want to see it because I'm not interested in that. Do you know what I mean? It's not interesting for me. I'm not interested in the male anatomy. It just doesn't really do anything for me. If it's going to be like that, I need to close my eyes. I told him that because I'm just not interested, or look the other way. That's very different to a heterosexual person who'd be like, do you know what I mean? Oh my God. It's like, perish the thought to me, right? Okay. So, I am more self-assured and confident with who I am, my relationship goals, and my life purposes. And I think that's really good, you know, finally, like, understanding who I am sexually, which is asexual, has given me a lot more confidence because I really understand asexuality on a deep, fundamental, innate level, like it's inbuilt into me. So there are some people that talk about asexuality who are genuinely asexual, but there are some people that talk more about asexuality and they don't really, I wouldn't say necessarily they understand it on a really deep, innate level, like it's inbuilt into them. Whereas it's inbuilt into me, do you know what I mean? It's like I naturally understand it because I'm naturally asexual. But there are obviously other YouTubers and stuff out there that talk about asexuality. They are asexual. I don't tend to focus on the some of the stuff that they talk about. Like they'll talk about TV programs with asexuals in it and that. I don't focus on that very often. I tend to stick to real life. my own personal life, or, you know, sharing real life stories and stuff like that, rather than like, you know, characters. But I have talked about Bridget Jones's, you know, Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. I do some movie reviews, and it's really bad because in that movie it portrays asexuality really badly. Bridget Jones is not asexual, but in that movie she says, oh, I'm completely asexual. She's not. She's just basically grieving for a dead husband, and that's why she's abstaining from sex for that reason. Like I said earlier, asexuality is not abstaining from sex. It's not. It's not like you're stopping yourself from having sex, or you had a death or a terrible traumatic experience that means you can't have sex, although some asexuals might have had traumatic experiences. Do you know what I mean? Asexuality is a genuine sexual orientation that's based on not having a need, urge, or want for partner. Sexual intercourse is based on lack of sexual attraction. But some asexuals can still have sexual action, because attraction is not the same as action. So some asexuals do have sex because they lack sexual attraction, but they're okay to do the action. I hope I've made that clear. Right. So I feel honoured and blessed to help other asexuals as much as possible. And that gives me greater satisfaction and a sense of achievement in my life. I think that's really important. I think when you are helping others, you've got a life purpose, because my life purpose and mission is to get asexuality recognised as a sexual orientation in its own right throughout the globe, so no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. That's my mission. And so because I got this mission, everything I do usually is geared towards that. Like every interview I have with a podcast person, even like I've got a fibromyalgia book, like even this book that's not based on asexuality, I bring up asexuality in this fibromyalgia self-help handbook. This is on Amazon, autobiographical superhero style book if you want to get a copy. Teaches you how to reduce pain in 25 aspects of your life, so it's quite cool. So, you know, everything I do has kind of got an asexual element to it, and by helping asexuals, I feel like I feel very blessed to be fortunate to be in that position. You know, I know myself really well. I understand I'm asexual on a fundamental, innate level. I kind of get it. It's not like I'm reading a textbook to just understand it. It's like I am it. I live it, breathe it. That's what the channel is all about. This channel is about showing you how I live my asexual life day to day in real life context, not just give textbook definitions of it that anyone could have grabbed off the internet somehow. Do you know what I mean? That's not what I'm about. I'm about showing you lifestyle videos, entertainment videos of my life, and you know, like such as the movie reviews I do, no sex movie reviews. I'm here to educate and inform you. So I like to do this channel to give an all-rounded view of asexuality, and I show and share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in your life journey. I think that's good, you know. I think it's important to show the ups and downs of life, so you know you're not alone. So I can link other asexuals to each other. This is a good thing, and spread awareness of asexuality on a more global scale. So sometimes I have people emailing me who are asexual and they're a bit stuck in their life. They feel like they've got no one to talk to. They don't understand where other asexuals are in the world. They haven't come across another asexual. So I run asexual groups on Facebook, and I actually know of other asexual groups, and so I can point them in the right direction to an asexual group or one of my groups, so that they can mix with other asexuals. Obviously it's up to them to then be proactive and reach out and do posts and stuff in these groups. You know, sometimes asexuals might be a bit shy because a lot of asexuals are introverted, but I can, like, you know, get them into these groups, and then it's up to them to kind of mingle in the groups, as it were. But I really love doing that. It's a very nice part of my life. I can be part of a world-changing mission, which is what I just said, to get asexuality recognised as a sexual orientation in its own right throughout the globe, so no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. I really think it's so important. A lot of asexuals are not out about being asexual like I am. I'm here to educate people about asexuality, answer intimate questions that many people wouldn't want to answer, and you know, talk openly and honestly about it. I think the more people understand asexuality, the more we can all live in harmony together in this world. Like, I can have a relationship without sex, and that's normal for me. for other people, many other people who are heterosexual, they can't fathom what that is like. But as AI advances and more AIs and humans are having relationships together, then maybe, just maybe, asexuality become much better understood. Because if humans have no sex relationships with humanoids, for example, then it means that it stands to reason that they should be able to understand asexual relationships more, like the relationships that we have which don't have sex in them. For example, like some asexuals are in heterosexual relationships and having sex, but for the asexual people who don't want sex, don't like it, don't need it, and they can have a deep emotional connection, that can be the relationship. As more humans from different sexualities, such as heterosexuality, have relationships with AI, they date AI, they have a robotic boyfriend or girlfriend, they can then know and understand what it's like to have a relationship without sex, but still have a very, very deep emotional connection, intellectual connection, etc. So I think AI relationships, because I'm writing How to Date an AI Bot book, if you haven't already seen my cover, look at this, How to Date an AI Bot, build relationships with AI companions confidently and safely. So I'm writing that book, and this actually intersects with asexuality quite well, although anyone can date a book, date a bot, date a book, why not? But yeah, so I'm writing this book at the moment, which is relevant to any sexuality, not just asexuality. But I think there's a genuine synergy between asexuals and AI human relationships. And I think as more people get used to having non-sexual relationships with AI, they'll hopefully get more used to asexuality and asexual relationships and the way they work. So I think it's really good. So in terms of positives about being asexual, again, I'm still reading from an asexual perspective, but my own story, this is in the book, page 522, if you've got the printed copy. Don't forget you can get a copy on Amazon. I feel I can bridge the gap between asexual and sexual understanding, as I have lived a heterosexual life in the past, despite being asexual. Even though I have not had as much sex as some would have had, I'm still very experienced in this and knowledgeable. So yeah, despite being asexual, I have had sex in my past. I've had heterosexual relationships throughout my life, for a lot of my life. I started having my first heterosexual boyfriend relationship at 6 years old. And so I do have a lot of experience, even, you know, in a sexual way, even though I've probably done that a lot less than a lot of heterosexuals have. My ex was really weird. So my last long-term ex, I bought him this book. I don't know why I did it, but it was like, for me as an asexual person, it's just like, I'll give him this little book. This is a gift because I know he likes this type of thing. I wasn't relating it to me. So I ended up giving him, I'm laughing now, but it wasn't funny at the time. I gave him this, like, bought him this little Kuma Sartre sexual position books, basically. But it was a cartoon version. So I saw him in a bookshop. He was in a bookshop with me, and he was having these like Kuma Sartre sex positions in a book. He was like reading it in the shop, like looking through the pictures, and I'm like, oh my god. And I personally don't like it when I have a boyfriend, they're looking at nude, naked people, right? And so he really liked looking through this book, clearly. So I didn't like that, but I thought, I know he's interested in the sexual position, so I'll get him like this little cartoon pocket book. Like, it was drawings, not real people, that had different sexual positions in it. So he can just look at that and enjoy it for himself because he was heterosexual, right? So my mind wasn't thinking it's got anything to do with me. And obviously I was his partner and he was having sex sometimes with me. And I was thinking, like, it's got nothing to do with me. I wasn't thinking like that because this is how my asexual brain works. I don't relate me to having sex. And so then after a while of him having this book, he then started talking about all different sexual positions with me and trying them out. And I'm thinking, what? I'm like, what are you talking? He goes, oh, this is this position. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I just let him get on with it and do what he liked with my legs or wherever he liked to position me. Because I'm quite flexible like that. So I just let him get on with it. I wasn't really interested in sex. So I'm just like, do what you like, basically. Within reason, obviously. If I didn't like anything, I would say stop. And, you know, but I was like, put my legs wherever you want them to go. So that was what he was doing. And then I realised, oh, he's working through all these different sexual positions in the book. So it wasn't like I didn't have different variety of that. So I guess that kept things interesting. But I mean, like, I'd rather have not have bothered. But because my brain doesn't think in a sexual manner, it didn't think that he would even want to do any of that stuff with me or think about doing it. I just thought it was a nice cartoon book for him. And I preferred it to him looking at real naked women in a Kama Sutra book with real photographs of naked people. You know what I mean? That's all I was thinking about. And I'm like, oh my God. So I must have tried quite a bit of stuff, you know? So that's what I mean by experience, right? So in terms of positives about being asexual, I can write more asexual books. So I've still got about 4 books that are outstanding, plus another one I never started. So I'm doing the How to Date an AI Bot book first, because this is very relevant to asexuals and any sexuality, and it's very poignant at the moment with what's going on in the world and AI. You know, this has got to be got out now. So I'm doing this book first, and I'm going back to finish the asexual books I started that need to come out. So you know what I mean? But yes, I expect that I'll be having a lot of interviews for this book. I've already got, an interview lined up for this book, and I haven't even finished writing it yet. Someone approached me, and so I'll be talking about AI and how it intersects with asexual relationships, and how you know, basically it's a relationship revolution that we're in at the moment, where AI is concerned, and I'm happy to be part of that, you know. So, and I do believe that as more people accept AI human relationships, they should hopefully accept asexual relationships, because if people are dating and having relationships with AI without sex, then stands to reason they should be able to understand us more, who can have relationships without sex, you know what I mean? So let's hope that happens. So I live and breathe asexuality every day of my life. And if you're on this channel, you'll know that's true. And I'm constantly seeking to understand asexuality better, despite whatever personal view I hold. So what I mean by that is, for example, even in this book, there are some asexuals that participate in BDSM, for example. Now, I personally can't stand BDSM. I really hate it. I don't like the thought of having like pain and being spanked and all that type of stuff, right? But I know there are some asexuals in the community, asexual community, that do like BDSM without sexual intercourse, for example. There are asexuals that watch porn. I hate porn. I can't stand it. I detest it. I don't look at that. I don't particularly ever want to have to deal with that. I hope that if I ever had a boyfriend in the future, he wouldn't do that. I don't really think I could be with a guy who did that. I'd feel like he was cheating. And so, yeah, it's not good for me, right? So I don't like that. But I have to talk to lots of different types of asexuals. I have to understand that I'm not the only asexual in the community. And there are asexuals that like watching porn. There are some asexuals that like BDSM stuff. There are some asexuals that masturbate. There are some asexuals that have kinks, for example. So they're all valid. It just means that they have different perspectives to me. So I have to put my personal views aside, like the fact I can't stand porn, and realise that a lot of asexuals still watch porn. Do you know what I mean? Like, I hate sex, and I don't even like seeing sex scenes in movies. Do you know what I mean? But there are still lots of asexuals that do that. And so that kind of shocked me when I came to the asexual community. I thought people wouldn't want to be looking at porn, but the more guys I spoke to, the more I found out that they like that still in the asexual community. I don't understand it personally, because I'm like, why on earth would you want to watch that type of thing, especially if you don't like sex? But I understand that they can do that. For example, they could want to masturbate if they're a person that experiences arousal, or they have a sex drive. But with asexuals, it's not aimed at anyone usually, so it's like they've got this huge sex drive and nowhere to get for it to go. So some of them feel they have to watch porn in order to masturbate and relieve themselves, for example. I don't have to, like, if I wanted to relieve myself of arousal, I don't have to watch porn to do it. I can just be in my own body and do whatever I like, you know what I mean? I don't rely on outside sources to be able to, like, satisfy my own self in a sexual manner, if you like. I don't even think about it as a sexual manner really, but do you know what I mean? Like, if I want to do some self-love stuff, I see that as, do you know what I mean? I don't need that. Why do I need external sources? Why would I rely on watching someone else do something? I don't think that's good personally and healthy. I think it's better to rely on myself, better to turn myself on, better to feel good in my own body and skin. Do you know what I mean? Than have some external source do that. And that's personally a really huge benefit for me being asexual, is that if I do want to like touch my own body and stuff and turn myself on, if you like, well, what I mean by turn myself on, it's not like I want to have like do you know, like it's not like I want to like, well, I'm not going to go into all that, but if I want to self-pleasure, do you know what I mean? That's kind of like, I can do that myself. I don't need external sources to do that. And I think that's one of the benefits about being asexual, is that some asexuals, they do masturbate and they can get pleasure themselves without having to deal with another person making them explode their load, whatever you want to call it, at making them have like their arousal feelings leave their body. You know what I mean? They rely on another person. A lot of heterosexuals rely on another person to have sex in order to relieve that arousal, whereas many asexuals are self-reliant. That's what I'm trying to say. And they don't have to have a third party involved at all in that, which is great. Although some asexuals do still have, like I said, they watch porn, which you could argue is still a third party. I don't need porn or anyone to do stuff like that. I can just love my own body and my skin, which is great, I think. But I actually didn't even try masturbation until I found out I'm asexual, which is very unusual. But I think it's fine if asexuals want to do that, you know? So, I can design more asexualized t-shirts and enjoy that creative pursuit at the same time, raising more awareness of asexuality. So yeah, I do have a shop, Redbubble/Asexualise/shop. If you want to go and check that out, I have like 60 of my own asexual designs on t-shirts, bags, notebooks, hoodies, dresses, skirts, you name it. I've kind of mostly got it there. And you know, you can get your own asexual merchandise. I really like designing that. I think it's really nice and novel to design things that are different and express yourself. Very good. I've also got some of those designs on Amazon as well. I always love to be not normal and stand out. So being asexual really suits me and my already quirkiness. Yeah, so before I found out I'm asexual years ago, I had my brand as Quirky. Like, I've got Quirky Books is my book publishing company, my registered book publishing company, and quirkybooks.wordpress.com was my first blog that I ever had, way before I was helping asexuals. And so I've always like prided myself on being not normal and quirky. And then when I discovered I'm asexual, it's like, wow, I can fully live into this quirkiness and difference now. I love being not normal. If someone tells me I'm normal, I find it insulting. I'm like, why would I want to be normal? That's awful. You're just telling me like I'm like loads of other people. I find that really insulting. I'm like, why would you classify me as being like one of the crowd and like loads of other people? That's just not good. So I personally don't like that. I feel that's very insulting, actually, and not respecting me as an individual. I don't like that. Whereas loads of people are like, I just want to be normal. I'm like, I don't want to be normal, because normal to me is boring, and it means I'm following the crowd. It means people, I'm just a number, and I'm just like a sheep, and I don't have any standout qualities. I don't want to be like that. I want to be standing out and be outstanding, if you like. You know what I mean? I love that. So, and the final thing I said about being positive, or the positive about being asexual, is I really believe I can make a difference to the lives of asexuals, and that is empowering. So yeah, I really do believe I can make that difference to asexuality, the asexual community, and asexual lives in general. I mean, you see me day after day on this channel living an asexual life in real life context, you know, the ups and downs of it, what it's really like when you're asexual, like dating, friendship, relationships, in the general world, when I'm chatting to taxi drivers or whatever, chatting to people, guys I've never come across before, and talking to them about asexuality and their reactions and all this type of stuff. And you might have seen there's a lot of food videos on this channel in my short stream, because a lot of asexuals, I think, are foodies, and a lot of us prefer food to sex. So that's why I put a lot of food videos out there. I hate cooking, but I love eating. So I love living into my full authenticity, and I believe that when you're fully embracing who you truly are, that's when the magic is in your life, and when you can spread magic and love to other people. So whatever sexuality you are, I hope you are fully leaning into it and enjoying it, and I hope you understand yourself better because of it. I want to say thank you for being here tonight Don't forget you can get this book I've been reading from called Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Love and Sex, A Celebration of Asexual Diversity. You can get this from Amazon. It's an insightful read. Yes, it's a big book. Took me a year to write it and interview people for it. And pretty much it answers any questions you've got about asexuality and the asexual spectrum, which is great if you're new to asexuality or want to understand more about it in real life context, not just textbook definitions of it. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. And please give this video a thumbs up if you like it. I thank you for being here. Thanks to everyone who's been in chat. I love you lots. And I'll see you soon on the next video or live stream. Take care. And I'll see you soon. Bye.